And earlier, I spoke with Senate Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham. First up in our conversation, the Iran War Powers Resolution. Will it hurt the president's ability to defend us? All right, Senator, thanks so much for being with us. You know, it's been a momentous week. We have the House passing a war powers resolution. Essentially, they think preventing the president from going to war with Iran, but it is basically a meaningless resolution, is it not?
Yeah, it's a concurrent resolution that has no effect of law. All they're doing is emboldening the enemy. I don't doubt their motives, but I've been a military lawyer for over 30 years. I just retired in 2015. The Congress has the power to declare war. That doesn't mean the commander-in-chief can't use military force to protect the country without Congress. So we've declared war less than 10 times in the history of the country, but we've had military engagements hundreds of times. What President did is he took out Soleimani, who was planning another attack against American forces in Iraq who are lawfully present. He has all the authority he needs to protect troops in the field. This was a defensive preemptive attack. The War Powers Act is blatantly unconstitutional. You cannot have 535 commander-in-chiefs. Can you imagine what our nation would look like if Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Rand Paul, and AOC, and you name that, keep going down that list, that we couldn't defend the nation unless they all agreed? That would be impossible.
Well, the amazing part of it, Senator, is that, you know, as opposed to congratulating the president for essentially bringing Iran to its knees, for identifying a real threat to Americans, for doing it without a loss of American life or civilian casualties, for not putting boots on the ground, instead they want to limit him. But, you know, that seems to be consistent with everything the Dems are doing. But before I move to that, do you want to talk to me about Rand Paul and Mike Lee both announcing that they support that? I mean, first of all, why? And secondly, what about a united party? This party has been united behind everything the president has done. What's with those two?
Well, number one, I like them both, and if I had an eye problem, I would call Rand Paul. He's a great eye doctor, but I would not ask him for commander-in-chief advice or constitutional advice. Mike Lee's a great guy, but all I can tell you is that they're so wrong. Their foreign policy is more like Bernie Sanders, less like Ronald Reagan, less like Donald Trump. But here's the legal question. Do you really believe that the founders of our great Constitution envisioned 535 commander-in-chiefs? One person can't put us in a state of war. It takes a congressional enactment. But a commander-in-chief can use force to protect the nation without 535 people signing on to it. So they have been consistent. They're libertarians. I am not. I'm a Ronald Reagan. I'm a Donald Trump. I'm a George W. Bush Republican. And you know what? I said this when Obama was president. I said it when Clinton was president. If you don't like what the commander-in-chief is doing as a member of Congress, cut off funding. We have the power of the purse, but we cannot make military decisions.
All right, so let's talk about Iran. You know, I thought the president's speech this week was absolutely statesmanlike. He started with, you know, as long as I'm president, Iran will not be allowed not to have a nuclear weapon.
Right.
Right. And I like the word not be allowed, as though we were monitoring it. But it appears that, you know, our NATO brothers and sisters, the UK, France, Germany, China, I guess, is in there. They're still doing business with Iran. Is that the case for aluminum, for steel? Is that what Iran is exporting?
Yeah, I think that's what these new sanctions are designed to stop. So here's the question for your audience and for the world at large. Why do you not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon? You know why I don't want them to have a nuclear weapon? I think they will use it. There's no better friend of Israel than you, and I think I've been a good friend of Israel. Here's the question. If the Ayatollah had a nuclear weapon, would he use it against Israel? What do you think?
What do you think?
I think it is absolutely certain that he has a religious agenda. He's trying to purify the faith. He's going after Sunni Muslims who have a different view of Islam. He's trying to radicalize every Shia element in the Mideast. He's destroying the Mideast as we know it. That when he says to death to Israel, he's not kidding. He's not trying to get his poll numbers up. That he's a religious Nazi. And to my Democratic friends,
Well,
if you're the Prime Minister of Israel, don't you take that threat seriously? I would.
Well, look, the day they signed the Iran deal, they were chanting death to Israel, death to America. I mean, how stupid are we?
The deal was terrible. The deal did not stop them from getting a bomb. It actually put them on a pathway to a bomb, and it gave them $150 billion to wreak havoc on the Mideast. And Ted Cruz is right. These missiles shot at us were probably paid for by the American taxpayer.
More with Lindsey Graham ahead, including his prediction for the Senate impeachment trial. Nancy Pelosi and the Dems were the topic for part 2 of my interview with Senator Lindsey Graham this week. Take a look. You know, does anyone take that woman seriously? How long have you been in the Senate, Senator? How long have you been there?
I've been there since 2002, and I've done my share of dumb things, and Republicans have done some pretty stupid things, but nobody's done anything dumber than this. Impeach the president because you absolutely have to. He's a menace to the world. Time is of the essence. It's urgent. We can't wait to allow him to exercise executive privilege. We can't wait to get John Bolton's testimony on the record, you know, and going to court to compel his testimony. It's imperative that we get Donald Trump out of office. And sit on it for weeks. It makes no sense. She's trying to tell Mitch McConnell how to run the Senate. Mitch McConnell's, this is his finest hour. He stood up to Nancy Pelosi. She's not going to run the Senate. She gave in, and I think this hurt her. It undercut the argument that impeachment was about necessity. Impeachment is about revenge. I took Mueller seriously. The Schiff, Nadler, Pelosi show is political revenge. The president's done nothing wrong, and these articles of impeachment, they can destroy the presidency over time. They're impeaching the president because he wanted to go to court.
Right.
Obstruction of Congress. Abuse of power is so poorly defined. There is no bribery because nobody got bribed. There's no quid pro quo. So they make up a thing called abuse of power. How are future presidents able to conduct themselves with something this vague?
Especially when something is so partisan as this is. But in the end, when it goes to the Senate, I mean, as if she has this imperialistic approach to the Congress. I'm going to tell you how to run it. Wait a minute. You were the one in the sub-basement of Congress who wouldn't let anybody in, who wouldn't give anyone on the minority, the Republicans, the ability to cross-examine. And now she thinks she's going to dictate to you guys. How do you think it's going to play out very quickly in the Senate?
It's going to play out along the Clinton model. We're going to listen to the House's case based on the record established in the House. If they thought John Bolton was an important witness, they should have called him. They didn't feel like they needed John Bolton to make their case. I'm going to judge your case based on the evidence presented to the Senate. I'm not going to defy executive privilege. The president said he would invoke executive privilege. I hope no Republican will destroy executive privilege. All I can say is that the impeachment articles are a danger to the presidency. The way they impeach the president is un-American. This trial will end in a matter of days, not weeks, and he's going to be acquitted. I hope every Republican votes to acquit, and I think some Democrats will too. This is a sham. This is political revenge. This is not constitutional abuse by the president.
Well, it appears that what you've said is you're going to take this exactly the way it comes, that essentially the 2 articles of impeachment are coming to you as an indictment, that you will not add any additional testimony or any additional counts like the testimony of John Bolton. You will take it as an indictment and decide based upon the evidence within those articles. Am I correct?
You're 100% correct, and the reason I don't want to add to the record is that you're rewarding the behavior of the House. They did this quickly. The president had no right to counsel. He couldn't call witnesses on his behalf. They ignored executive privilege. They actually impeached him because he was willing to go to court to defend the presidency. They said, since you want to go to court, you're obstructing Congress. No president should have to choose between being impeached and exercising executive privilege. That's what the House made him do. So the Senate should not reward this behavior by the House. The Senate should end this trial as quickly as possible. That's what I intend to do. He will be acquitted. I hope and pray every Republican will reject what Nancy Pelosi did, and we'll pick up a few Democrats.
Well, you know what? I think that, you know, given what has played out, I think that you will get a few Democrats. But Senator Lindsey Graham, thank you so much for what you do, and thank you for being on Justice.
Thank you. Happy New Year.